Hi everyone and welcome to week 9 where we're going to be talking about road mapping. I hope you guys are doing great and taking care of yourself and still progressing in your projects despite of the difficult situation. So the goal for today the goal of the week is to help you or to make sure that you are able to visualize your project in short term, mid and long term milestones and see your, let's say, your time frame or scope in 1 to 2 years, right? That's the idea of road mapping. So I'm gonna be talking also a bit about what we have been doing. This is the model that we are providing you guys with to kind of scope the time and what you want to do in a certain time in your project, because it's really important to manage the pacing that you want to work and you want to maintain. So the first weeks, if you remember, we have been focusing on your product vision and value proposition, which is something that you want to, if you have clear, you want to spend from 1 to 3 years working it out. And we have been using these tools to help you define this, right? That's what we have been doing. Then we translated your visions and goals into hypotheses that you can validate easily. That's why we use the tools, the canvas and the value proposition. And the idea was to get you to do things that are more in the short term and in the sprint kind of context. And for that, we provide you with these tools that you already know about, doing the tests, cards and the designs and doing the backlog and so forth, right? To end up with some learning and validations. So this is the kind of time that we have been talking about. And remember that we also propose you to use a progress board or a backlog or sprint backlog board in GitHub to be able to move your progress of test cards forward, right? And your tasks as well as your issues and so forth. So, but today we're going to be talking about your high-level wish list, your next features and improvements. Where your project is going, and how do you want to? What learnings have you gathered from the product backlog releases and things that you have done that you want to put in your next bigger milestones and work towards that in from 1 to 2 years, right? That's kind of the time span that that is considered to be scope for product roadmap. So how do you do a roadmap? I like this book very much. It's very simple. It's called Don't Read This Book, and I used it in the previous video. I really like it because it's very straightforward. You start here in step 1, where you define your goals. What do you want to achieve? In this case, we're talking about goal from 1 to 2 years. Then you go to where are you standing at the moment? What have you achieved? What are you capable of doing? What sort of team do you have? To then land in the strategy, which is basically the roadmap. What milestones and big steps do you want to do to be able to achieve the goals, right? So that's a basic principle of road mapping, going from goals and wishes to backwards to where you are, and then how do you want to achieve that, right? So I'm going to put some examples. Let's say that you have the goal of releasing your version 2.0.0 by September 2020, or you want to get 100 users and replications maybe, or 100 replications of your product. You might want to get a funding to sustain core team for 2 years, which might be a couple of thousands of euros or less, depending on where you are in the world. Or let's say you want to release an alpha version because you're in an early stage in your project, so you want to first release a prototype by July 2020 to get some feedback, or find a manufacturing partner that can sponsor and share part of the profits of selling your designs or our designs, right? In this case, I'm putting myself in your shoes. So these are some examples. You could have another goal, which might be having a partner school that is using our product and buying us kits and being early adopters or early customers. So these are some examples, right? Now, oops, so I forgot. So now I'm gonna put some scenarios of where you are currently standing. So you might be standing in a situation where you every month you get a new feature request or idea from your community, or you might be in a stage where you have enough funding for one person, the main person in the project, to work full time, or 3 persons in the project to work full time because you happen to be in a university, maybe, I don't know. You might be in a situation where you have validated your core concepts and functionality, you have a prototype that works and you have tested, you have a solid group of early adopters, you have a small community that supports the project. So it really depends where you are, and that's very important. You might have a solid core team of 4 persons that have been working and dedicated to your project. So these are all examples, right, of where you could be standing depending on the different projects that you are working on. So one important thing, it is up to you to do your entire roadmap open and publish, or only key milestones that is worth sharing with the public according to your strategy. So we are not encouraging now that you have to publish everything of your plan and your strategy, because sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes you want to have a solid core team that agrees, and then once it agrees on key stuff, on key aspects of your releases or your plan or whatever, then you want to share the agreed milestones, right? Your product roadmap can be open, but your entire project roadmap could also be shared only among core team members. That's what I just said. This is important because it might be the case that you want to consolidate first the agreements within the core team before actually sharing to the entire public, because it might be the case that, and this really happens many times, you try to reach an agreement or have an idea or a consolidated vision first before getting it out there. Why? Because for several reasons you might want to make sure that you don't have a lot of divergence in your core strategy, or you want to make sure that you have a solid foundation of your proposals and so on, right? So that those are real things that happen. So the step 3 is actually road mapping. It's another word for strategy implementation. How to go from A, or step 1, to B, or from A, actually step 2, where are you currently standing, to B, where do you want to be, where do you want to what do you want to achieve. And then we're going to be working on this aspect now, right? So let's take an example. Let's say you have a release. We are planning to achieve the goal of a release of version 2.0.0 by September 2020. And let's say that we are standing in this scenario where we have validated core concepts and functionality. We have a solid group of early adopters, and I have a funding to work full time on my project, so I can really dedicate this year or the coming 2 years to work only on this project that I really like, right? So let's specify it a bit more. The new release incorporates new feature requests that people ask in the community. It provides clear guides and tutorials. We also want to launch a campaign and do fundraising in parallel or prior to the release. So this is perhaps more specific to kind of picture an idea of a strategy and the goal. This goal is too general, too unspecific, so this tries to specify it a bit more, right? So let's see what we could do. Okay, in order to go from step 2 or from A to B, we want to release new version source files by mid-June 2020. We want to also launch a series of webinars and videos from July until September to teach people how to use our new design or release, right? That's another thing that we might want to do and can be a milestone in this example. We also want to release guides and documentation by the end of June. That's another important milestone in the project, right? We want to invite people on the internet to do a review of the new release systematically from official launch until the end of December. This is a bit of a longer term or mid-term milestone. And we might want to find a school or university partner that adopts our open source product in their educational programs by early 2021. So that's another milestone that we are putting there that is mid to long term in the context of the roadmap. And this is just, yeah, these are just some examples that I was trying to show. So there are more advanced road mapping things that you might want to consider. Like for instance, you might want to define new features to be released in next version. Some products or some projects in open source really have a roadmap where they say this is what is coming, this is what we are promising. So they put their promises already in a README or in the website or whatever. They also provide a change log of the new versions, like what changed in the new version, which is also important. You might want to advance project management board with milestones. As we said, this is, you want to say, okay, our milestones in the midterm, which in the midterm you can specify it is from, let's say, today until 1 year, because our roadmap has a scope of 2 years, or the short term, which can be a sprint, right, which is one to 2 months, right? So another advanced part of the road mapping is to implement a Scrum or Agile-like approach with continuous delivery of new product features. This means that if you are in the scenario where you can actually work full-time on your project and you have a dedicated team, you might want to use the continuous delivery concept of working in an agile way. Okay, we release every sprint, let's say every 1 month or every 2 months, new releases or new documentations or whatever is in your focus. And you also want to keep people updated on new documentations, guides, and websites based on the new releases. So how to do it using GitHub boards, milestones, and releases. I'm not gonna actually show you guys how to do the releases because I'm not an expert on this one myself. I would like to try it, but I shouldn't do it if I don't know exactly how to do it. So I will go to just show you how to use the boards and milestones in GitHub, and let's do it together. So I'm working on this project now where I actually have 3 different boards. So you can have as many boards as you want in your project, and I'm gonna try it out with this one myself. I've done it in other projects, but I haven't done it in this one. So I would say, okay, I'm gonna make my roadmap 2020, right? You might describe it here. Okay, here we explain, or here we document key milestones that focus the team on delivering key features and achieving core milestones, right? I don't want to use a template for this. I want to make it public or private. I will first do it private just to check it out, right? Because I don't want to release it without being finished. So I'm going to create the new project, and I'm going to add a column where I'm going to say short term. I'm going to say only midterm, create column, and I'm going to add long term. Okay, so midterm, let's say midterm is, let's specify it a bit more here. Midterm is from 6 to from today to 6 months, right? And then we're gonna say long term, 1 to 1 year, 1 to 1.5 years, 1.5 years, right? Just to, you can then make it fancier, but I'm just doing it now like this to briefly make the demo. So I want to say, okay, during in this project in particular, which is a project related to documentation of open hardware for COVID, I want to say, okay, in my midterm, I would like to release production version of the app, and this involves basically, I would add more stuff like having the backend fully functional. I want to also have a feature which is the form for easy documentation, project documentation, right? And I might want to say, okay, I want to find sponsors, get funding to pay for open source contributors that have volunteered until today. Why? That might be a milestone. Another milestone might be to get a traffic of, let's say, 100 users per week from, yeah, that can be another milestone, which you can see that it's very measurable and very concrete, right? And you might turn this into issues. You can turn it into an issue, and then you could eventually, I'm gonna make a test of this one, functional. Okay, I'm gonna make it as an example. Convert to issue. I want to put it in this one, right? No, in this project actually. And let's try it, right? Then what I can do here is that I can create a milestone and say, okay, a milestone which is key feature release. I can create and assign a milestone to someone, but you see, you can immediately have that, and you can also find it in your issues. So if I go to my issues, I will get this key feature release, right? So that's pretty much how you do it in GitHub, how you can do it. You can also, as we said, you can make a roadmap in a markdown as well. Yeah, this is just an example. You can make the, once I reviewed with the team and I agree with the team on this, then I could turn all this into issues and then I could make it public. But for now, because I haven't, I will just keep it private. Okay? So going back to the slides. It's pretty simple. The concept for week 9, the assignment is actually one assignment. Follow the basic process we have provided you in 3 steps. So define your core goals in a time span of 1 to 2 years from today. Specify where are you standing, what have you learned, validated, and achieved, what capacities do you have. Reflect about that. Define clear milestones or intermediary steps that can lead you to those goals for 1 to 2 years. If applicable and desirable to your specific context, specify these ones, the milestones, in the Kanban board as I just showed you guys. Or do it in a markdown file in your repo, calling it roadmap.md. Yeah, so I think this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something, and we're hoping also to get some feedback from you. If you have something to share about it, please share it in the video in YouTube, or you can also do it in our chat in Riot. And hope to see you soon. Bye bye, and good luck for this new week.